Picture yourself in your favorite place, somewhere that you feel comfortable and relaxed. You could say that it's your safe haven. Close your eyes and picture your ideal day or night there. Everything is perfect. The sun is in just the right spot. The weather is your personal favorite, and everything seems to be falling into perfect balance. Now take a second to take a deep breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest as you do so, and take in all of your surroundings. Maybe it's a coffee machine brewing in your living room, or the sounds of kids playing downstairs, or maybe only the comfortable sound of silence. Whatever it may be that you're noticing, no matter how big or small, take a moment to appreciate it, to be aware of everything that it does. To be mindful of it. Yes, this is about mindfulness, about being aware of your thoughts and your surroundings in order to create a more positive way of thinking. But it's not just that. See, I could sit here and tell you factual evidence of how mental health is affecting almost everybody today. Or I could tell you my own story of mental health and how mindfulness shifted my way of thinking. But that's only my viewpoint and my voice telling it. Instead, I went and asked people for their stories about their mental health journeys and how they're dealing with it and how they're still dealing with it today, and how mindfulness affected them to help them cope with the busyness of life that they struggle with. So, my name is Kaitlyn Rigdon.
My name's Camden Chandler.
Hesse.
My name is Elizabeth Fullwood.
My name's Katelin.
And these are real stories told by real people. But first, I asked them about what they thought mindfulness was.
Now, mindfulness, it's just like, being aware of who you are at the time and what you're experiencing.
Mindfulness is just being aware mostly. It's just being aware of where you are at, what's happening in your life, where other people are, and just trying to not necessarily chase after the thoughts that run through your head, but just to sit and watch them run by, sit and watch the traffic.
Mindfulness is really becoming aware of your surroundings and kind of the moment you're in. To me, it's not necessarily just sitting in a quiet spot, not thinking anything, but it's allowing yourself to think thoughts and feel a certain way and notice and become aware of those thoughts, but letting them kind of pass you by and not become hyper-focused on them and just kind of be. As hippy-dippy as that sounds, it really is. You can have directed mindfulness, so thinking maybe when you're eating, that's what I do, is think about, okay, how does this feel, what does it taste like, and kind of slowing down in a moment and really enjoying what you're doing.
Mindfulness is just to be at peace with yourself and at peace with your life, even if things are going wrong, that you can still have a good mindset.
And then I asked for their stories.
Yeah. So, my journey is I'm definitely a bit more of an anxious person. I'm pretty outgoing, but overall I like to keep really busy, so a lot of times I feel like I would get overwhelmed and would just overload myself with so many things that I couldn't really finish a task, or I was so stressed out, even if I didn't know why, but just felt so anxious about, anything. So my journey was kind of learning how to cope with feeling overwhelmed and, not being in the best mood, and how to stop thinking so much and just kind of enjoy where I am. So yeah, that's kind of how I got here, is that.
Yeah, no, so this is actually an interesting story, because I've always been a person, the only thing I've ever been diagnosed with was ADHD. I got diagnosed around 4th grade. I wasn't able to concentrate in class and stuff like that. But recently, and the reason I wanted to do this interview was I actually started having a lot of like anxiety attacks in October, nights where I wasn't able to sleep and, I wasn't able to keep food down and stuff. And I didn't tell any of my friends or anything because I didn't want them to worry about me or anything. My parents knew. They wanted me to, go to a therapist about it and stuff like that. And I wasn't against it or anything, but I needed to find a way that I would be able to cope with this myself because I knew that the therapist was going to tell me the same thing, give you a list of ways to cope. But I needed to find a way to solve this myself because I know that if I'm able to find something that I can cope with, that maybe, in the future, if somebody's suffering from the same thing with me or that I'm suffering through, that I could also help them.
So I went to 6th grade, and first day of lunch, the people I thought were my friends, they said, "Oh, sorry, there's no seat there," And so, there's no one to sit with, no one to eat with, and it's just a big change going from having someone to having no one. And being an introvert, I've lived my whole life in my head, and just, if you're not careful sometimes, it can get really bad because you isolate yourself. Because it's okay to be alone, but it's not okay to, isolate yourself. And then when I went to high school, high school, freshman year, I came back and I was happier, but I still felt because I love metaphors, I felt like an empty box, something on the outside that's really pretty, really, looks happy, and then on the inside it's just hollow, and people love to come up and fill it with their own things, and that's how I felt I was. And then there was sophomore year, and I met someone, and it was great. I found someone who actually would listen to me. That helped a lot, I think, having people around you who are similar, not only what they believe, but in the way they treat each other. I think it's good to have people like that around you. Junior was a bit rough, and so one of my friends was going through a really hard time relationally, with their relationship, and they were in a really bad spot. And it made it to the point where I couldn't eat at lunch again. I couldn't sleep, and because of how emotionally tolling it was and on both of us. But we got out of that toxic relationship, thankfully, and we both went to church, and we both started our lives and getting back into a healthy mindset. We did some meditation on Wednesday mornings. We did some Bible study, and we just try to get ourselves in a headspace that has a positive outlook on life, that sees the good in everything and sees the good in ourselves. So yeah, so that's my story.
So is there any one piece of advice that you would want to give to anybody that's watching this?
Man, I would say self-love. And I've always been a person who has preached that and stuff because I think it's probably the most, important thing. Whether you have the biggest ego or the smallest, you don't have a lot of confidence. But I think, self-love and having confidence in yourself and knowing that you could wake up the next day being hey, I got this. I'm going to make today my day. Having that attitude and positive affirmation each day and just thinking positively not only helps and, boost your mood, but you're more optimistic about stuff that, comes into your life. Maybe you did lose your job or something didn't go your way, but you have to be hopeful that, stuff will be better in the future. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people, lack in this generation. There's a lot of pessimistic people that, one thing bad happens to me, my life is ruined, and then they take that negative energy out on other people, and stuff like that. And you never know what somebody else is going through too. So, saying to someone good morning, small stuff like that, that's probably the most important thing that I'd probably tell people.
It's definitely really difficult, but trying to be okay with where you are, understanding why you're feeling a certain way, or there may not even be a reason. And I think that's, some people feel they may be anxious or nervous. And that was my biggest thing, was I wasn't even thinking anything necessarily. I wasn't thinking, oh, what if I have this big test coming up? Or it was just a feeling of overwhelming, of just anything. And so I think the thing I would recommend is try to think and just do it small intervals. So, when you notice something that may be a negative thought or, not the most positive way to think about something, think about it and allow yourself to know that it's temporary and is, whatever that sounds, it's kind of just, you have to be in check with your thoughts. So, constantly, thinking, okay, maybe I could, think a different way about this, or, it's not something that happens overnight and you don't have to always be doing it, but, just trying to do it for, 5 minutes a day at first, That's all it takes to just put yourself in the right mood, and it does get better. You just need to remember it's not all at once, and take your progress as your progress.
What would I tell someone? I would say keep up your fight. It's worth it in the end, because even when it's rough, there's something worth it, there's someone worth it, and even if you don't realize they're there, there's always people around you who are willing to help you.
Mindfulness isn't a textbook definition. Sure, there's a basic concept to it, but mindfulness is different for every single person that experiences it. It's something that molds to your mind and shapes it to be better than it was before. It's also not a quick fix. It takes work and effort, trial and error, failure and success. It takes time to understand the inner parts of your brain, but it's not impossible. So take the time to really look into yourself. Don't judge it, don't comment on it, and don't try to change it. Simply acknowledge the things that are surrounding you and try to gain a deeper understanding of how your brain functions. You'll find that incredible results will happen when you take the time to do one simple, small, but immensely important task. So by hearing other people's stories, there's one more question to seek out for yourself. What's mindfulness to you?
Mindfulness is intentionality,
fulfillment,
A purpose.
Connectedness,
optimism,
empathy,
Understanding,
healing,
bliss,
acceptance,
observance,
thoughtfulness,
consciousness,
acknowledgement,
positivity,
focus,
valuable,
evolutionary.
Mindfulness is awareness.